trouble down on this end.
The meeting of Trophy Club Charter Review Commission is called to order. It's October 15th, 2019. The time is 7 o'clock. We have a quorum. Present are Dave Edstrom, Bruce Dale, Rhylan, Rowe, Dennis Sheridan, Kevin Carr, Lou Opipare. Lou, if I mispronounce that,
That's fine.
you got Danny Mayer, Derek King. Absent with excuse is Timothy Patterson. We'll start off with the citizen presentation. Citizens are allowed 4 minutes to address the commission regarding an item over which the commission has policy or oversight authority as provided by Texas law, the ethics law, and or other policy order. Holly, I don't see anybody to speak.
No, sir.
All right.
So, would you like to speak? So you pay attention.
We're to the regular session. Agenda item number 1, discussion of tasks and procedures pursuant to resolution number 2019-25. The way I'd like to handle meetings that I chair, we'll have either myself or the staff will have an initial say something, then we'll open it discussion to the commissioners, and we'll typically go around the table. Everybody will have a say. We'll invite the public to speak. And tonight we're only discussing. We're not going to take any votes because we're not deciding anything, but in the future we'll have decisions where we will have the public, a motion made and seconded, the discussion. I'll ask for the public comment prior to the vote and then the vote. Okay? I'd like to say hi to Steve Norwood, our new town manager. Thank you. Didn't have a chance to say hello before. Dave Dodd, the town attorney, Holly Neal, Philip Shoffner, and Mayor Sanders, and Mike 50s. Since some of y'all, I've met everybody, but not to where I'm kind of on a first name basis, so if I mispronounce the name or whatever, please correct me. So the first thing we want to talk about is this resolution, and I'm going to start with saying we're a recommending commission based on this resolution and also the town charter. The council has the right to say yes, no, maybe, change, whatever our recommendation. Our task is to set out, review the charter, make recommendations, if any, and our task is basically outlined in charter section 11-15, 11.50, which sets the duties of this commission. I hope everybody's read the charter and fell asleep reading it and has read the resolution. Our goal. The resolution requests that we be prepared for the May ballot. The May ballot has to be approved by the council, and we have to get it to the council in time for them to review it and get it on the May ballot, which is like January 31st. So the goal is, I'm putting down, is the end of January. That means our report, as outlined in both the resolution and the charter, we really have to have it done by the 31st of January, and we really do need to be put in December as a deadline so that we can refine it in January. This resolution in section 9 lays out the schedule, which we'll discuss later as an agenda item, meaning when we're going to meet and what dates. That's what I've got. I'll start down. Dave Edstrom, any comments?
None.
Bruce? Rhylan?
No, sir.
Kevin? Lou?
No comments.
No comments. Okay, moving right along. Going to agenda item number 2.
Yes.
Oh,
Look at section 5. I just want to bring this to your attention.
section 5 of the resolution.
Right, it's page number 5, section 5. It says the Charter Review Commission shall act in accordance with the scope of the duties set forth in section 11.15 of the town's home rule charter, and shall also undertake a review of specific topics or charter provisions as requested by majority vote of the town council. The staff liaison shall communicate such request to the commission. I just want you all to know that we have not discussed this. We have it as an agenda item on Tuesday to discuss. So if there's anything that the council wants to bring forward, I will inform you of that at the next meeting.
Thank you. That way, since that's procedures and policies and stuff, that's agenda item number 2. I'll skip that question when I get there. Agenda item number 2, discussion of procedural rules of operations of the Charter Review Committee. One, in case you weren't aware of it, Trophy Club does have a meeting and rules procedures, and I will attempt to follow them. But I don't have them memorized, nor do I have Robert's Rules of Order memorized, but we'll try and keep an organized meeting. The charter, just exactly what Philip said, tasks us to inquire into operation of the town government, and then it mentions the council. We all can't go running around talking to the town government. Holly, would you comment now on how you'd like us to approach both the council and or members of the town staff?
Absolutely. If y'all would not mind making contact with our town manager, Mr. Norwood, and that way he can, if there's a question within the departments, he can get with the appropriate department head and get back with the commission.
Oh, okay. Steve, you're obviously just got here, right? I've been working with Holly as the liaison in my contact. Is that the way you'd like to keep it?
Either one of us would be fine.
Okay.
If you can get a hold of me for something, particular to election or what have you, just call her.
Gotcha. I'd like to remind everybody that you can't or should not, when you reply all, that's against the Open Meetings Act. So therefore, reply, ask questions of Holly or Steve, okay? And please make sure that they can disseminate it to the rest of the commission, and also make any presentation of that information back to the commission. I have a very nitpicky rule. I will not accept anything at the dais. So anybody coming in and saying, here, have the latest update, I'm not even going to look at it. Okay. I want time I'm old, I need time to look at it and think about it. Not that it doesn't happen, but it's something that I'm very particular about. So Holly and Steve are going to be our contacts. Now, on the procedure for this commission, I'm open to everybody having a say here and giving some good ideas. I'd like to go through the charter in sequence, Article 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever, until we get by the entire charter by December 9th. That's 4 meetings. That'll also be discussed later on the meetings. That also means that maybe Article 1 and 2, we don't even spend 2 minutes talking about it. We pass right by it. Article 12 has nothing to do with anything anymore. It's a transition from back in 2004. So we should be able to get to the meat of them. So that's what I'm proposing. Then to use the 2 meetings in January to create the report. And the reason I think we need to refine everything in January is getting on a ballot. And the way I'm viewing this process is we've got several ways of wording something. We have the wording that this commission is going to recommend. We have the wording that the council is going to hear and change or make their own wording. Then you've got the legalese of the wording that's going to get on the ballot. And if we take some time in January, maybe we can minimize those and make sure our intent is carried through. Jared, any comments on procedures?
No. Sounds good.
Okay, Danny?
As we discussed, as we go through Are you wanting to hold any suggestions or anything until after you've completely gone through it, or kind of?
No, well, let's,
That's
for
the way it
example,
goes.
excellent question. With my, and once again, I'm trying to throw it out to open, but my idea is that it's on the agenda that we're gonna start and, discuss Article 1, 2, and 3, right? That's open-ended. Hey, I don't like this, I like this, I want to change this, I want to record this, and just go through it line by line if necessary.
But the reason I ask is because I think it would make your compression time at the end a lot quicker if we get through the minutia as we go.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, great point. Yep. And Holly is going to be our recorder and keep minutes. Okay. Lou?
Goes along the same lines as Mr. Mayor just pointed out. My suggestion is we break it up into sections and don't leave until we cover a section. That way we're sure to get through the thing.
It would still go from 1.01 to,
Right. Well, the big one's going to be Article 3, the council and stuff, and then Article 4, which is the administration would cover broad brush is quite a bit. Okay. Kevin? Rhylan?
Yeah, I agree with what both Lou and Danny said earlier. I think what I would encourage everyone to do as we have an agenda that comes out and we narrow down what articles we're going to look at, come to the meeting with your notes ready to roll for what sections you want to look at, and let's not force ourselves to literally call out every section and every paragraph, but rather, go through what our notes already tell us we want to talk about, because as you guys already said, if we're agendaed for action on those sections, then we take action on those sections, and then we can close those sections and move on to the next one. So, yeah, I think we're on the right same page here.
Bruce? Yeah, I agree with that too, that we know in advance what we're going to be doing, so we can, not that we should read the whole thing and have a good understanding of this document, but know in advance what we're going to be doing that night, so that we can really focus on that.
Okay. Thinking along that line, Holly, I'm thinking that I'd like to push the agenda, always have the last open-end, the last agenda item as the next, the next article. For example, if we're going to discuss Articles 1, 2, and 3, and we suddenly get through at 8 o'clock, I want to keep going. So, but at the same time, if we get bogged down in section, 3, then we may not complete the agenda. You follow me? Does that present a problem?
No, sir.
Okay. Bruce? Dave? I'm sorry.
I don't have anything to add.
Okay. All right. Going right along. Agenda item number 3, the Town of Trophy Club current charter. Briefly, the history, as I've been able to determine, subject to be improved wrong, in August 1999, we had a charter election in this town. It failed. In November 2004, we had another charter election and it passed. Now, both of these charters had significant citizen input and a lot of volunteer work to create them. Then in 2007, the staff and council got together and tried to put together some amendments. And I think there were 5 of them, and they all failed. They did not get through. Then there was a charter commission, similar to ourselves, of citizen volunteers in 2008-9. And they put a significant amount of recommendations forward. It did get on the ballot, and it did pass. It was quite controversial at the time. And I'd like to avoid any controversy like that. It's now it's very clear in the charter that the council has the right to accept or not accept any recommendations or make any changes. Then in 2013 to 2015, there were charter amendments on the ballots that passed. These were more presented by staff to help the administration of the town. For example, the timeline to create a budget and get a budget approved was just unworkable. So that was in the charter and it had to be worked out. And once again, council has the right to put whatever they want on the ballot, and they did so, and those passed. There's the next thing is, I'm trying to think of how to word this properly. There are several copies of different formats of this charter. Okay? When I went on the town website, when I first got nominated to the position, I went on the website. There were three different charters that I could have printed out, all in 2018. I printed out the latest one, and then Holly sends us this one here in our packet, and that's different. Now, the wording in it's the format, okay? The one that Holly gave us is talks about the state laws, and the one I printed out off the website is meaning our charter does not, okay? But it does talk about the different amendments that occurred. The other is the one I printed off the website, has a table of contents, which I like, okay? And the one Holly presented us does not. I think it's important we all deal off the same piece of paper, so that when we start talking about page 4, we're all looking at the right page. So Holly, you win.
I was just explaining to Mr. Sheridan, when you do searches off of the town website, that's not necessarily going to be the latest and greatest version. So the one that I have printed and included with your agenda packet is directly from the latest and greatest code of ordinances, the Higher Franklin legal to codify our.
I found about 3 versions, so I just called Holly and said.
Yeah, I would not
Right.
recommend you.
Okay, well, see, other people have had the same thing. I would not know how to even get into our ordinances to figure out what to print. That's what I got help for. Okay, I'm going to ask if this is it, unless somebody else has something to say, what was in our packet tonight, with the, would you please add
Yes, sir.
the table of contents,
Yes, sir.
which is 3 pages? Is that, if that's acceptable? That way we're all dealing in the same piece of
Could I
paper.
suggest
Go ahead.
we have Holly put the current charter and the table of contents together one more time, and send them to everybody, so there's no mistakes.
Put a date on it.
Well, you got it. It's in your packet tonight, meeting date October 15th, and it's the Charter Commission, but that's fine. I have no problem with that.
This is Lou Peppery. Let's take it one step further. Let's figure out which one we're going to operate on, and we're going to operate off the one in the package, and then send that one to the council so we don't have any controversy, because the council members may have a book that have a charter in it, right? That may be outdated.
Does that?
You know, that can happen.
Okay.
And then that just
Good suggestion.
gets rid of that.
Council Liaison? Okay, that's, they'll make it all easy to make it work, okay? And then we good? So we've covered the history, then, all right, now we're into the charter. So this is an open-ended discussion on the charter. This is also things that we could talk about processing. What do you want to see next? How do you want to talk about it? Dave, any comments?
No, but I think what you said before is the right thing. Lay out 3 paragraphs or chapters or whatever you want to lay out for the next agenda, because it's important to do the homework and have the homework done completely when we show up. There's no excuse for showing up not being prepared.
Okay. Brown?
Nothing to add. I agree with Dave, and also move around and about, make sure you get your notes done before you come here. So we're not, hitting things over and over again.
Okay.
I would say look at the charter with a real open mind. This has been around a long time, and it was drafted when the town was much smaller than it is right now. And kind of look at it with a holistic view of what could be improved or better clarified, and not just try to, there's been some nice changes made to it and necessary changes, but I think there's quite a few things in here that if you read it with that kind of an open mind, you'll see some opportunities.
Okay. Sure.
I would just say, like we've already talked about, just come here, be efficient with your words. We don't all want to be here all night, so just be clear and efficient, and I think this will be a great, we'll have some great recommendations.
Okay. I'm going to go to item number 4, the future agenda in the calendar. And then I want to come back. Go right ahead.
Maybe a point of order. We talked about which version of this charter we're going to use, and it's going to be the one Holly sends out to us with the table of contents in it. Do we need to have a motion and a vote, and so it's on record saying that's what we're going to use, and that's what we're working off of?
We're not agendaed for voting tonight.
Okay.
It's all discussion.
No problem.
Okay, but that's, okay. Now, the next agenda, we'll have motions to proceed or to whichever. This is, right now, to me, until we get together, we know what we're doing, know how we're going to do it. It's all very informal. And we're being videoed and audioed. So we've got to have some type of record. Any problem with that, Holly, getting?
No, sir.
No, okay. I'd like to come back to the charter. So we're going to, first of all, then go to agenda item number 4, then I'm going to come back to agenda item number 3. Agenda item number 4 is discussion of future agendas. These kind of tie together, okay? We have Holly presented a calendar in your packet. There's not a whole lot of meetings in order to get on the ballot. You've got Thanksgiving coming up in November. You've got a meeting on Veterans Day, which is a holiday, and Michael. So I'm going to come back to that and ask if we're going to have a quorum. Then you've got December, where you got Christmas. So it's going to be kind of pushing it. So I'm bringing this forward with the idea that we have some questions over. We're going to have a quorum on the 11th, and does everybody want to comment on do we have enough meetings? Do we need to add a meeting? No.
Dennis, I have a question. Do we have to stick to this calendar? Can we move some of this around?
I'm going to say yes, we can move it around on the basis that, okay, it's subject to council or to staff saying there's a conflict, or no, you can't. The resolution says shall. The word shall is there. So, but I'm here to get something done, and I'm not going to be restricted to get it done properly. Okay, so if we need to move a date, let's talk about it. If we need to add some meetings, let's talk about it. Now, having said that, now you've got this. Now you've got to come back to the charter. And if everybody here hopefully has read the charter, you know, once again, Articles 1 and 2 have never been changed. They're pretty straightforward. But Article 3, which is going to take some time for discussion, and Article 4 is another one. We need to ask for some staff input if they want to participate. Article 3 will be the council participation or making recommendations or talking to us. Okay. And I want to say that if council has recommendations, that they're presented to us through the agenda items so that we have time to think about it, talk about it, think about it, analyze it before we get into the meeting. Then on staff, if necessary, Holly or Steve, the individual, if it's a specific item on a department, then I'd like to have that department head come talk to us. Okay. I'm not saying they will, I'm just saying we don't know what's coming up. But I don't want to be here talking without having somebody out there in front of me with the authority to know their issues. Okay? Okay. Comments on the agenda as far as the meeting schedules go? Right?
Yes, sir. So just to clarify, are we assuming no meeting on November 25th and no meeting on December 23rd? Correct?
That's the way it's been presented.
Okay.
You agree with that?
I have no issues either way with that. So I just wanted to make sure we were on the same page there.
Okay.
You specifically mentioned Veterans Day. I'll be available that day. I'm checked on that.
Okay. Just for, it's not unofficial, just for show of hands, who could be available on Veterans Day to meet with the quorum? 2, 3, 4, 5. There's a quorum, so it's an official day. Okay. Any other comments on the meetings? Okay. Having then switching back to agenda item number 3, the charter itself. Comments on whether or not people think, or chairman think we're going to be able to get through Article 3 in one meeting, and then Article 4 in one meeting. Derek? Article 3 is the council, which talks about the mayor, the procedures, the form of ordinances, the...
You're asking if we can get through 1 through 3 in one meeting?
Yeah. 1, 2, 3.
I think that's a good goal to try to do that if we're all prepared to provide input.
All right. How about, and then a different day, another meeting would be the administrative services. Now you're into the town manager, town secretary duties, municipal court.
So I think for section 4, you mentioned earlier maybe more staff input, so we might want to have that for a separate meeting perhaps.
Okay.
If there's specific things that they have recommendations on.
Okay. Then nominations and recall and legislation by the people, which would be Article 5, 6, and 7, kind of gel together. Like that would be another meeting. Then you've got 8 and 9, and 10 I think is going to be, which is franchises and utilities, is going to be pretty straightforward. So there we've broken it out into 3 meetings. And then 4 we can recap and also go over Article 11 and 12. 12 is transitions. 12 is put in there because the original Charter 2004 needed to specify how the government was going to operate until the new charter came on. I haven't found anything in there that's valid today. And I guess one of my recommendations would be to remove it.
Give it a full 30 seconds.
Yeah, so, okay, a full 30 seconds. All right. So that's where I'm going, and that takes us 4 meetings. And that takes and then going back to agenda item number 4, and we look at that calendar, okay? We're meeting again in October on the 28th, and then we've got one meeting in November, another meeting in December, and that, so there's your, well, 2 meetings in November, and another meeting in October 28th, and another December 9th, and there's our 4 meetings. And then we go to the holidays to go. Philip, any comments on this?
No, I think you worked that out.
You know, first of all, it's nice to hear him to talk about it, and then Holly is going to have to put it down into the next agenda and actually put it to paper. And we have no idea what type of citizen input is going to happen. We have no idea how the individual commissioners are going to come up, bring something forth. So I think that's a good goal to go with.
And you might have some tentative dates, just in case.
Yeah. You're assuming 4 meetings through December 9th, assumes a second meeting in November, which is currently tentatively.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So
Yeah.
what we may want to do as a group tonight while we're all here is agree on a second meeting date in November if we want to avoid that Thanksgiving week or not. It's up to you guys.
Holly is the 18th, which is a Monday. Is there anything that would conflict?
The only thing I can think of is Parks Board, but I don't think they would be meeting. I think they're, every 2 or 3 months now. So we can ask them to move it to another date if need be, so November 18th.
That's a Monday, and that's November 18th. Commissioners, anybody have a problem meeting on that day?
I've got a work conflict there.
Okay.
It would be good with me.
I'm good.
Fine, good.
Dave?
For me. I'm fine.
All right, so we would have a forum, okay? And so let's go for that.
All right.
Okay?
So a couple of.
The other thing is, Jared, if you can't, you're going to get the agenda packet, and if you have comments, okay, that you'd like presented to the meeting, then either forward them to Steve or Holly or myself. Don't forward them to everybody. Okay? But that's another viewpoint that's not every commission and committee in this town's ever done. But if somebody does present something, commissioner who can't come, then I want to make sure it gets in open air and is verbalized, not just put in the record.
Yeah, so just to summarize where the last 2 things we talked about, so you'd be talking about the first 4 meetings being October 28th, November 11th, November 18th, and December 9th. And the tentative layout for those would be Articles 1 through 3 in a meeting,
Yeah.
a standalone meeting for Article 4, a meeting to cover 5 through 10, and then a wrap-up /11 and 12 meeting on December 9th, just so
Okay.
that everyone understood that, okay. Personally, for me, I think that's completely doable. I think we can handle that. I think there's a lot of experience on this board.
But should we pencil in another date in December? Just in case?
What do you think?
Like that, as we go down the road, then we may have a need for another meeting, and then we could add that.
Let's just all block our calendars, right? Okay, just
About the 16th.
Yeah, that's
How about
that's
the
what I'm saying, just pencil it in.
16th of December?
Yeah.
I'm for it. I'm fine. So I'm really thinking that if we have a meeting like this, if nobody's out there, that we're going to get through this very quickly. But at the same time, once it gets announced and people know we're meeting, and then we're going to have some public input, that's when we may just start dragging on time. So I like the idea of having another meeting. So meeting number 5. 12/16. And then Holly, if you would, at your convenience, could confirm the dates are available that night.
Absolutely.
Okay? And we can always cancel from the meeting before if it's not necessary. Okay. So we've discussed future agendas. Let's go back to the charter. It's an open-ended discussion. There's no votes. There's nothing to look at, but I just want to start by going through Article 1, which is the form of government. And if it has to be said, we're a council management government with a lot of the policies and actual operations on the town manager. We do have a new town manager, so hopefully he'll have a chance to read this and fall asleep doing it. I want to point out that out of all the different times this charter has been looked at, there hasn't been any changes to it. And I haven't, looking in the history books, I haven't found anybody that wanted to make a change to it, except for the 1999 that failed. Okay.
Make a quick
Go ahead.
vote on the whole
Kevin.
as a whole. It references council, and then it references mayor and council. The TML handbook says mayor and council handbook. So I don't know if there needs to be definitions to identify the council, the word council, what it means, doesn't include the mayor, because there's some sections that say the council has to have 4 people, you know, for a quorum. Well, does that include the mayor as a quorum, because he has voting rights? Another thing, someone may want to do a word check. It's kind of sexist where it says the town manager, he, or the town secretary, he. It can go either way, so someone might want to do that too, just clean it up as a whole.
This doesn't have any definitions at all. Is, David, is there definitions around that cover this?
For mayor and council,
Yeah.
down in the next section. We're talking about changing definitions, Mr. Carr has talked about making it consistent.
Well, there's, like on the voting section, I don't want to go into different sections and jump around, but in voting, like in the, for meetings and stuff, it says 4 council members. Is that including the mayor?
Oh,
Because it just, all through here, it just says the council can do this, the council can do that. Does the council include the mayor? Because there's some sections that say mayor and council.
on the voting, I got to clean that up, because I believe first the mayor did vote. and then
Right.
I
think that's what happened. We had a charter amendment to let the mayor vote, and at
Nothing
the
has
same
changed.
time, we added another council member that same election, and then the charter never caught up with that election.
Yeah, it's just.
But there is in the preamble stuff, words that say the duly elected governing body. And so I think that clearly addresses all of them. And it's just a question maybe of cleaning up the language a little bit, just like the he/she question, and clean up. Clean this up.
I think that maybe putting, I was looking at this and I noticed that too, maybe 3 definitions was all like mayor, what does mayor mean, what does council mean, and what does town manager mean, because those are the 3
Right.
key people through here. The other thing that we may want, that I think we may want to look at is, I don't think we've changed this, Andy says, in a while. Are there any state laws, is there any way to find that out, that apply to this, that have now been amended, that we have to amend this for? So we don't want to go through all this and then find out that, oh, you've got to go back and change it, because the state now says.
Well, there has been recent legislative changes to both annexation and eminent domain, so we can definitely catch that.
If anything else, and this may already be in there, but we would behoove ourselves, if it's not already there, to have something that states that in the event that this is in conflict with state law, that the state law would supersede. And obviously that would be found in a court anyway, but good to have it if it's not already there, and it may be there.
Possibly the staff could, if we're going to do one.
A legal question. If we're just changing legalese language, that doesn't have to be a part of the church. Does that need to be part of the amendment?
Okay, any change to this charter, it's got to be voted on. So,
By the voters?
by the vote.
Okay.
So, now whether or not you propose a change, or the state law says you will change, or whichever, okay? There is some language, a couple places that talk about state law being precedent, but can't remember exactly where it's in, I've read it in there. But they're good points. But even if it's just some of the previous 2013, it's just, it's wording the same, so it still had to go to a ballot. The only thing that can be changed otherwise without is where in 2009, where they took out a couple of sections, renumbering the items does not have to go to a ballot. Okay? And it'll, eventually we'll see it in here. Devin?
Anything else? Well, I was just gonna say, maybe the staff could research, we're gonna do 1 to 3, then 4 and 5 to 10, so they don't have to do it all at one time. Maybe look at those 3 to see if any state law has changed or something like that, rather than go through the whole thing. Just have it before we address those sections.
Okay. David, you planning on being at all our official meetings?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so one is to make sure that I follow the rules in the way I hold the meeting, and then the other is to hopefully answer questions like Annie and you, Kevin, just had over the legality. The other one I hadn't heard anybody comment on is the he or she, the gender addition of where it says he will do this.
That's just a
It's just, isn't there something that just says it applies to everybody?
Gender neutral.
Gender neutral, that's the word I was thinking. Okay.
That's usually the catch-all.
Right, if you can bring that back up again, Kevin, when we get to that section in number 4.
A number of them.
Yeah. Oh, it's in several places.
Yeah.
Okay. And annexation and the boundaries, Steve, you had just, so there could be a reason to talk about that, because here I am thinking I'm going to spend 30 seconds on it, and you're telling me state law may have changed.
We'll look at it.
Yeah.
If state laws change something, we'll have it for you in the packet.
Okay, got it. And that's one of the first things we'll talk about, and I'm thinking we'll get through that fairly quickly. Switching over to Section 2, enumeration of powers and eminent domain. That's another one that's never been changed by any of the other previous look-sees, except now we're going to ask about the possible state law. Then 3, the council. Now I'm on page 8. No, excuse me, I'm running the wrong topic. All right, 11 of 48, or page enumeration of powers. It's down at the bottom on that page 2 of 37 talks about it starts with the council and things like that. And that's one of those where I'm thinking that the input from the council should be part of this, because that's part of a lot of what we're talking about. So if you had any recommendations to go, and since you're talking about it next week, then it should be fine for.
And if there is anything, I'll send it to you. I'm sure I'll get it out for you so that you know.
Okay.
Also, I would encourage, not that I do it because, well, not me, but if you have questions for David, or if you come across legal questions, you might send David an email so that he can at least look at it before the meeting. And same with staff, if you have questions. Not that I do it, but.
I thought it was quick, but
Okay.
But it helps, I think, that way. If you don't do that, it's probably going to push it to another meeting before you get that answer.
Shouldn't we be sending it to
Well,
the
whoever.
manager or Holly?
That's fine.
I would prefer we have one contact, or two contacts, but not go back individually to David or whatever, run it all through Holly.
I would agree.
Okay? Yep. So that we're not getting here like you said, Rue.
And they typically will respond and send it to everybody. So if you send them a message, they're going to respond to everybody, just in case, other members have that same question.
It eliminates the risk of stuff falling through the cracks also.
Okay. Now, the Article 3, the council has had the most, many changes in the past. And the charter that we have talks about the state law references below the section. And it also will tell you if it's been changed at all, meaning, and it'll mention which election. So if anybody wants to delve into that, if they have a specific issue on any one item, look at that part.
A quick note,
Go ahead.
Dennis.
Right.
I'd recommend, as we think about the first 3 articles of the charter, knowing what we're going to cover in our next meeting, if you find a specific area, you may want to go ahead and, do we want to socialize that with Holly prior to the meeting so that she can, if nothing else, maybe provide you with an outline or something like that?
That could possibly be like an agenda, last agenda item, items for future
Right.
discussion or something like that.
Right.
Well, we're like this, like we have it now, discussion of agenda, that's going to be our last
A future agenda.
future agenda. Yeah, that's going to be on all our things. The other is, and I hadn't gotten to it, is that having an update and general discussion of from staff, a recap. I don't want to get into this part of, well, we can't talk about what we did last meeting because it's not, Article 2 is not on the 9th agenda. So I want to cover that ability. I don't want to abuse it, but at the same time, I don't want to have to get sidelined by the fine print of the agenda. So what I'm talking about is that our agenda item 1, 2, or 3, whatever, would be a specific article in discussion. Then the second to last will be a update by staff on where we stand and or discussion of overall items.
And so we might have a question this meeting and then come back and follow it up with the.
That's correct, and that covers it. That covers it generally for the, and then of course you have the future agendas. Okay. It's not even 8 o'clock yet, so I'm going to keep on going unless somebody wants to. Okay. When we get down into the council, a lot of it's about the mayor pro tem, the powers of the council, meeting of the council, the rules of the council. A lot of these have been changed and altered in previous look-sees. Does anybody have an interest in looking in the history of what those ballot items were?
I think it would be informative if we could get that out prior to our discussion of that article on our next meeting, especially as it relates to the last wholesale round of changes. A lot of those things did change, and so it would be helpful for context for folks to see what was most recently changed.
So in 2009, when they amended subsection C of 3.04, and it was on the ballot as Proposition 4, history-wise, you'd like to see what the proposition was.
I think so, yeah. I think it would be of value.
Is that possible, Holly, to keep track like that?
Yes,
If we do have copies of the ballots. Okay.
Ballot
I'll have to
languages.
ask, so what value?
Well, if someone opens up a specific section or discussion on a particular item, it would be useful to know, well, this particular portion that we're discussing as it's read was changed from A to B in 2009 or was not changed eventually.
I'd like to see that too,
Yeah.
just so we're not going backward and trying to do what was already voted on and researched prior.
Yeah, I just think I hate to rewrite history and.
Exactly.
But you have to use history.
Well, yes, to an
Or
extent,
lessons.
to an extent.
Well, there haven't been that many changes over the years, so why don't you just make a copy of every charter amendment that was on the ballot and the results and make it available to every one of them.
I think
There's not that many.
But the spirit of what I'm hearing is, it's not just what was changed, it's just why did we change it, and
Obviously, that we,
what kind of controversy did that create when we did it, right? And that way we avoid any pitfalls and.
The pros and cons.
Yeah, I want to avoid, well, I would say I want to avoid conflict, okay, and controversy, but at the same time, I want everybody to be able to vent their ideas and their sides. And even if there's two opposing, I've always, it's always been out there for discussion of opposing viewpoints. But I agree. I've been trying to find it, and Commissioner Edstrom has the newspaper articles on it. So if you can't find it in the public records, get the newspaper. Sorry about that, Dave.
I keep a lot of stuff. We can't say very much because my book is full. So we can't have a whole lot of discussion here. I don't have any more room in my book.
No, okay. If I hadn't read the newspaper article, I would not have known that there was a vote in 1999. So, all right, well, that pretty much, for generalization, covers Articles 1, 2, and 3, and what we're going to be looking at the next agendas. And I'm thinking that hopefully will take a full-fledged meeting. The next one would be the Article 4, which is the next meeting out into November. And here's where I'm thinking we're going to need some input, if there is input. I mean, no one says we have to make any recommendations. So if no one wants to change anything, let's get on with life, okay? But here's where the individuals or staff people would want to come and talk to us, because this is their section. And I'm thinking that this will also be a full meeting to go over it. And it's been changed quite a bit.
And to add to what Dennis just said, this is the one where the operational tweaks have been the most relevant over time, when staff has come and said, use the example of the budget date. That was one that we put on the ballot from council action in 2015. So what you're going to find here, what I recommend to everybody, and we kind of had a habit in the time that I was on council of, when we were getting ready to call an election for other reasons, we would hit staff up real quick and say, by the way, if you want to put anything on, let us know about these little sort of tweaks and whatnot. So what I would recommend for everyone here is, when you're reading that and thinking about it, look at it from a standpoint of execution of the actual functions within town hall, without getting too deep into minutia, obviously. But if it's something that seems to be an operational impedance or could somehow be simplified in some way, that's really, I think, the best use of looking at that section. And like to Dennis's point, staff may or may not have recommendations, but if they do, it's likely.
Well, I think we have an opportunity now with Steve coming on board, because when you take an overview of what goes on there, what's going on and how we're operating, I mean, ultimately it is 2019, not 2003 or 1985 when we were incorporated, that this is the section that we're going to need real input from the staff on. So what's causing you to have problems in your day-to-day job, that kind of stuff that's in the charter that you can't get around.
Okay. Switching, and then a lot of Article 4 very specific town boards, commissions, corporations. Holly, have you got everybody to sign your little form?
Just missing two.
What now?
Just, are you talking about the?
Yeah, whatever you, I raised my left hand and right foot and wrote my
I got
name.
two to go, but I'll go.
Okay. If everybody has at least knows that you need it.
Yes, sir.
Got it, okay.
I got one small thing to add
Go ahead.
as we go forward here. When we publish, we make some changes or a draft version, could we make sure that we have proofread this to the nth degree so we don't have a citizen or somebody turn around and make a big deal out of an perhaps versus a dot or a misspelled word and just take our attention away from what we really need to be doing here?
Well, my good friend, Bill Rose, will definitely let you know if there's a comma missing.
Oh, yeah.
And you oversee
You're
the
right,
E and
Bill,
she
an
there.
extremely good friend of mine.
Have you oversee the E and she?
Got it. Lou, a good point, okay. And that's also what I was trying to lead for in January, to make sure that we give the best wording of whatever we're going to say. And that just makes it easier on the council and easier on getting understanding of the public on the ballot. Then Article 5 talks about the elections, and a lot of this has has been amended. Do we have place? Do we have geographic? Does the mayor vote and all that good stuff? But nominations and elections is part of that, and how to file. And we may want to look at that. We've had a couple of issues with council people in trying to understand some of the wording of this and make sure that it's clear. And if there is a state law that supervises whatever, that we're not conflict with the state law, okay? And here it is. Am I an officer of the town now? Is that what that's all about on 5.08?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Then Article 6 is the scope of recall, and that's been amended several times, both administratively in 2013 and then revised somewhat in 2009. 7 is the legislation by the people initiative and referendum. I don't know if a lot of people understand what initiative and referendum is. That was a big issue on the ballot, trying to understand what all that was. But I think we want to look at that again to make sure that it's at least understandable. Municipal planning and zoning. I've got a couple of years as planning and zoning, and Lou, you've got some years on the ZBA. It's really hasn't been changed. Nobody's got to come back and done anything there. Budget and finance and taxation, which is Article 9. I think we're going to really depend upon the town staff. That thing's been massaged so many times, I don't know if there's going to need to be anything unless it's a legal update. And that also would be the council input because of your timing. Article 10, franchises and public utilities. I know there's been some controversy in the past over whether you do 20 years or 30 years, but at least we want to take a glance at it. And most people don't understand what a franchise is.